Hibernation Hotel. It was way past hibernation time, but Bear just could not sleep. His cave, as usual, was much too crowded. Raccoon snored, Beaver fidgeted, and Skunk, quite frankly, was a little bit smelly. "I've had enough of being treated like a big furry mattress," Bear grumbled. So he got up, made a phone call, and booked a room at a fancy hotel. "Ah," said Bear as he drove away, "peace and quiet at last." The hotel was huge and fancy, just like the front desk clerk's mustache. Bear tried not to stare at it as he checked in. "Would sir like a wake-up call?" asked the front desk clerk. "Yes, please," said Bear. "March 1st." The bellman showed Bear to his room. It was bigger than his entire cave. "This is the life!" exclaimed Bear, bouncing up and down on the bed. "And look at these snacks!" Bear cheered. He didn't know which one to eat, so he ate them all, then washed everything down with a huge gulp of water. He drank out of the toilet. But Bear used every bottle of shampoo, and all of the hot water too. Then he dried his fur, brushed his teeth, and flopped, exhausted, into bed. "Perfect," he yawned as he closed his eyes, and boom, biddy, boom, boom, thump, thump, thump. Didn't fall asleep. "A party?" groaned Bear. "This is worse than Raccoon's snoring." He stomped down the hallway. "Would you mind keeping the noise down?" he growled, ever so politely. "I am trying to hibernate." The other guests were quick to quiet down, so Bear stumbled back to bed. But no matter how much he tried, Bear just could not sleep. "Humph!" he moaned. "This bed is too squishy for a big-boned bear." So he flung the blanket and pillows onto the floor and crawled under them. "Ah, toasty!" sighed Bear, snuggling in. He grew toastier, then roastier, until— "Oh no!" he cried. "Now I'm too hot!" He threw off the blanket and pillows and opened the window to let the cool night air ruffle his fur. Soon Bear wasn't hot anymore, but he wasn't sleepy either. "Maybe a little TV will help me sleep," he sighed, and began to click through the channels. There was nothing on but wildlife shows, and for some reason they made Bear feel sad. So he turned the TV off and flopped back into bed. Bear lay in the dark, wide awake and all alone. "I just don't get it," he huffed. "I'm in a luxurious bed, with no snoring, fidgeting, or skunky smells, and I still can't sleep." Deep in the pit of Bear's tummy there was a strange, hollow, empty feeling, and right then Bear knew exactly why he couldn't sleep. "I'm hungry," he howled. "A bear can't be accepted to sleep on an empty tummy." Bear called room service. "I'd like to order the menu, please," he said. "All of it." A few minutes later there was a knock on the door. The bellman wheeled in the cart. Bear licked his lips and lifted the largest cover, but instead of a fabulous feast, he found his furry friends. "What are you doing here?" bellowed Bear. "We miss you," they cried. "We can't get to sleep without you." Soon Bear was buried underneath a pile of his sleepy friends, and even though Raccoon snored, Beaver fidgeted, and Skunk was still a little bit smelly, Bear didn't mind. He was finally fast asleep. The end. Tawny, Scrawny Lion. Once there was a tawny, scrawny, hungry lion who could never get enough to eat. He chased monkeys on Monday, kangaroos on Tuesday, zebras on Wednesday, bears on Thursday, camels on Friday, and on Saturdays, elephants. And since he caught everything he ran after, that lion should have been as fat as butter. But he wasn't at all. The more he ate, the scrawnier and hungrier he grew. The other animals didn't feel one bit safe. They stood at a distance and tried to talk things over with the tawny, scrawny lion. "It's all your fault for running away," he grumbled. "If I didn't have to run for every single bite I get, I'd be as fat as butter and as sleek as satin. Then I wouldn't have to eat so much, and you'd last longer." Just then a fat little rabbit came hopping through the forest, picking berries. All the big animals looked at him and grinned slyly. "Rabbit," they said. "Oh, you lucky rabbit, we appoint you to talk things over with the lion." That made the little rabbit feel very proud. "What shall I talk about?" he asked eagerly. "Any old thing," said the big animals. "The important thing is to go right up close." So the fat little rabbit hopped right up to the big hungry lion and counted his ribs. "You look much too scrawny to talk things over," he said. "So how about supper at my house first?" "What's for supper?" asked the lion. The little rabbit said, "Carrot stew." That sounded awful to the lion. But the little rabbit said, "Yes, sir, my 5 fat sisters and my 4 fat brothers are making a delicious big carrot stew right now." "What are we waiting for?" cried the lion, and he went hopping away with the little rabbit, thinking of 10 fat rabbits, and looking just as jolly as you please. "Well," grinned all the big animals, "that should take care of Tawny Scrawny for today." Before very long, the lion began to wonder if they would ever get to the rabbit's house. First, the fat little rabbit kept stopping to pick berries and mushrooms and all sorts of good-smelling herbs. And when his basket was full, what did he do but flop down on the river bank. "Wait a bit," he said. "I want to catch a few fish for the stew." That was almost too much for the hungry lion. For a moment he thought he would have to eat that one little rabbit then and there. But he kept saying, "5 fat sisters and 4 fat brothers," over and over to himself, and at last the 2 were on their way again. "Here we are," said the rabbit, hopping around a turn with the lion close behind him. Sure enough, there were the rabbit's house, with a big pot of carrot stew bubbling over an open fire. And sure enough, there were 9 more fat, merry little rabbits hopping around it. When they saw the fish, they popped them into the stew along with the mushrooms and herbs. The stew began to smell very good indeed. And when they saw the tawny, scrawny lion, they gave him a big bowl of hot stew. And then they hopped about so busily that really it would have been quite a job for that tired, hungry lion to catch even one of them. So he gobbled his stew, but the rabbits filled his bowl again. When he had eaten all he could hold, they heaped his bowl with berries. And when the berries were gone, the tawny, scrawny lion wasn't scrawny any more. He felt so good and fat and comfortable that he couldn't even move. "Here's a fine thing," he said to himself. "All these fat little rabbits, and I haven't room inside for even one." He looked at all those fine, fat little rabbits and wished he'd get hungry again. "Mind if I stay a while?" he asked. "We wouldn't even hear of your going," said the rabbits. Then they plumped themselves down in the lion's lap and began to sing songs. And somehow, even when it was time to say good night, that lion wasn't one bit hungry. He went home, through the soft moonlight, singing softly to himself. He curled up into his bed, patted his sleek, fat tummy, and smiled. When he woke up in the morning, it was Monday. "Time to chase monkeys," said the lion. But he wasn't one bit hungry for monkeys. What he wanted was some more of that tasty carrot stew. So he went off to visit the rabbits. On Tuesday he didn't want kangaroos, and on Wednesday he didn't want zebras. He wasn't hungry for bears on Thursday, or camels on Friday, or elephants on Saturday. All the big animals were so surprised and happy. They dressed in their best and went to see the fat little rabbit. "Rabbit," they said, "oh, you wonderful rabbit, what in the world did you talk to the tawny, scrawny, hungry, terrible lion about?" The fat little rabbit jumped up in the air and said, "Oh my goodness, we had such a good time with that nice jolly lion that guess we forgot to talk about anything at all." And before the big animals could say one word, the tawny lion came skipping up the path. He had a basket of berries for the fat rabbit sisters, and a string of fish for the fat rabbit brothers, and a bunch of daisies for the fat rabbit himself. "I came for supper," he said, shaking paws all around. Then he sat down in the soft grass, looking fat as butter, sleek as satin, and jolly as all get out, all ready for another good big supper of carrot stew. The end. The Enormous Crocodile. In the biggest, brownest, muddiest river in Africa, 2 crocodiles lay with their heads just above the water. One of the crocodiles was enormous. The other was not so big. "Do you know what I would like for my lunch today?" the enormous crocodile asked. "No," the not so big one said. "What?" The enormous crocodile grinned, showing hundreds of sharp white teeth. "For my lunch today," he said, "I would like a nice juicy little child." "I never eat children," the not so big one said. "Only fish." "Ho, ho, ho!" cried the enormous crocodile. "I'll bet if you saw a fat juicy little child paddling in the water over there at this very moment, you'd gulp him up in one gulp." "No, I wouldn't," the not so big one said. "Children are too tough and chewy. They are tough and chewy and nasty and bitter." "Tough and chewy!" cried the enormous crocodile. "Nasty and bitter! What awful tummy rot you talk! They are juicy and yummy." "They taste so bitter," the not so big one said. "You have to cover them with sugar before you can eat them." "Children are bigger than fish," said the enormous crocodile. "You get bigger helpings." "You are greedy," the not so big one said. "You're the greediest croc in the whole river." "I'm the bravest croc in the whole river," said the enormous crocodile. "I'm the only one who dares to leave the water and go through the jungle to the town to look for little children to eat." "You've only done that once," snorted the not so big one. "And what happened then? They all saw you coming and ran away." "Ah, but today when I go, they won't see me at all," said the enormous crocodile. "Of course they'll see you," the not so big one said. "You're so enormous and ugly, they'll see you from miles away." The enormous crocodile grinned again, and his terrible sharp teeth sparkled like knives in the sun. "Nobody will see me," he said, "because this time I've thought up secret plans and clever tricks." "Clever tricks!" cried the not so big one. "You've never done anything clever in your life. You're the stupidest croc in the whole river." "I'm the cleverest croc in the whole river," the enormous crocodile answered. "For my lunch today I shall feast upon a fat, juicy little child, while you lie here in the river feeling hungry. Goodbye." The enormous crocodile swam to the side of the river and crawled out of the water. A gigantic creature was standing in the slimy, oozy mud on the river bank. It was Humpy Rumpy the hippopotamus. "Hello, hello," said Humpy Rumpy. "Where on earth are you off to at this time of day?" "I have secret plans and clever tricks," said the crocodile. "Oh dear," said Humpy Rumpy. "I'll bet you're going to do something horrid." The enormous crocodile grinned at Humpy Rumpy and said, "I'm going to fill my hungry, empty tummy with something yummy, 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 yummy." "What's so yummy?" asked Humpy Rumpy. "Try to guess," said the crocodile. "It's something that walks on 2 legs." "You don't mean," said Humpy Rumpy, "you don't really mean you're going to eat a little child?" "Of course I am," said the crocodile. "Oh, you horrid, greedy, grumptious brute!" cried Humpy Rumpy. "I hope you get caught and cooked and then turned into crocodile soup." The enormous crocodile laughed out loud at Humpy Rumpy. Then he waddled off into the jungle. Inside the jungle he met Trunky the elephant. Trunky was nibbling leaves from the top of a tall tree, and he didn't notice the crocodile at first, so the crocodile bit him on the leg. "Ow!" said Chunky in his big, deep voice. "Who did that? Oh, it's you. It is, you beastly crocodile. Why don't you go back to the big, brown, muddy river where you belong?" "I have secret plans and clever tricks," said the crocodile. "You mean you've got nasty plans and nasty tricks," said Chunky. "You've never done a nice thing in your life." The enormous crocodile grinned up at Chunky and said, "I'm off to find a yummy child for lunch. Keep listening and you'll hear the bones go crunch." "Oh, you wicked, beastly beast!" cried Chunky. "Oh, you foul and filthy fiend! I hope you get squashed and squished and squizzled and boiled up into crocodile stew." The enormous crocodile laughed out loud and disappeared into the thick jungle. A bit further up he met Muggle the monkey. Muggle was sitting in a tree, eating nuts. "Hello, Crocky," said Muggle. "What are you up to now?" "I have secret plans and clever tricks," said the crocodile. "Would you like some nuts?" asked Muggle. "I have better things to eat than nuts," sniffed the crocodile. "I didn't think there was anything better than nuts," said Muggle. "Aha!" said the enormous crocodile. "The sorts of things that I am going to eat have fingers, toenails, arms, and legs and feet." Muggle went pale and began to shake all over. "You aren't really going to gobble up a little child, are you?" he said. "Of course I am," said the crocodile. "Clothes and all, they taste better with the clothes on." "Oh, you horrid hoggish croc!" cried Muggle. "You slimy, creepy creature. I hope the buttons and buckles all stick in your throat and choke you to death." The crocodile grinned up at Muggle and said, "I eat monkeys too," and quick as a flash, with one bite of his huge jaws, he bit through the tree that Muggle was sitting on, and down it came. But just in time, Muggle jumped into the next tree and swung away through the branches. A bit further on, the enormous crocodile met the roly-poly bird. The roly-poly bird was building a nest in an orange tree. "Hello there, enormous crocodile," sang the roly-poly bird. "We don't often see you up here in the jungle." "Ah," said the crocodile, "I have secret plans and clever tricks." "I hope it's not something nasty," sang the roly-poly. "Nasty!" cried the crocodile. "Of course it's not nasty. It's delicious. It's luscious. It's super. It's muscious. It's duper. It's better than rotten old fish. You mash it and munch it. You chew it and crunch it. It's lovely to hear it go squish." "It must be berries," sang the roly-poly bird. "Berries are my favorite food in the whole world." "Is it raspberries, perhaps? Or could it be strawberries?" The enormous crocodile laughed so much his teeth rattled like pennies in a piggy bank. "Crocodiles don't eat berries," he said. "We eat little boys and girls, and sometimes we eat roly-poly birds as well." Very quickly, the crocodile reached up and snapped his jaws at the roly-poly bird. He just missed the bird, but he managed to catch hold of the long, beautiful feathers in its tail. The roly-poly bird gave a shriek of terror and shot straight up into the air, leaving its tail feathers behind in the enormous crocodile's mouth. At last, the enormous crocodile came out of the other side of the jungle into the sunshine. He could see the town not far away. "Ho, ho," he said, talking aloud to himself. "Ha, ha. That walk through the jungle has made me hungrier than ever. One child isn't going to be nearly enough for me today. I won't be full up until I've eaten at least 3 juicy little children." He started to creep forward toward the town. The enormous crocodile crept over to a place where there were a lot of coconut trees. He knew that children from the town often came here looking for coconuts. The trees were too tall for them to climb, but there were always some coconuts on the ground that had fallen down. The enormous crocodile quickly collected all the coconuts that were lying on the ground. He also gathered several fallen branches. "Now for clever trick number 1. he whispered to himself. It won't be long before I'm eating the first part of my lunch. He took all the coconut branches and held them between his teeth. He grasped the coconuts in his front paws. Then he stood straight up in the air, balancing himself on his tail. He had arranged the branches in the coconut so cleverly that he now looked exactly like a small coconut tree standing among all the big coconut trees. Soon 2 children came along. They were brother and sister. The boy was called Toto. His sister was called Mary. They walked around looking for fallen coconuts, but they couldn't find any because the enormous crocodile had gathered them all up. "Oh, look!" cried Toto. "That tree over there is much smaller than the others, and it's full of coconuts. I think I could climb that one quite easily if you help me up the first part." Toto and Mary ran towards what they thought was the small coconut tree. The enormous crocodile peered through the branches, watching them as they came closer and closer. He licked his lips. He began to dribble with excitement. Suddenly there was a tremendous whooshing noise. It was Humpy Rumpy, the hippopotamus. He came crashing and snorting out of the jungle. His head was down low, and he was galloping at a terrific speed. "Look out, Toto!" shouted Humpy Rumpy. "Look out, Mary! That's not a coconut tree. It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." But crocodiles are tough. It is difficult for even a hippopotamus to hurt them. The enormous crocodile picked himself up and crept towards the place where the children's playground was. "Now for the clever trick number 2, he said to himself. "This one is certain to work." There were no children in the playground at that moment. They were all in school. The enormous crocodile found a big log and placed it in the middle of the playground. Then he lay across the log and tucked in his feet so that he looked almost exactly like a seesaw. When school was over, the children all came running into the playground. "Oh, look!" they cried. "We've got a new seesaw!" They all crowded around, shouting with excitement. "I'll go first!" "I'll get the other end!" "I want to go first!" "So do I! So do I!" Then a girl who was older than the others said, "It's a rather funny, knobbly sort of seesaw, isn't it? Do you think it'll be safe to sit on?" "Of course it will," the others said. "It looks strong as anything." The enormous crocodile opened one eye just a tiny bit and watched the children who were crowding around him. Soon, he thought, one of them is going to sit on my head. Then I will give it a jerk and a snap, and after that it will be yum, yum, yum. At that moment there was a flash of brown, and something jumped into the playground and hopped up onto top the swings. It was Mugglewump the monkey. "Run!" Mugglewump shouted to the children. "All of you, run, run, run! That's not a seesaw, it's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up!" The children screamed and ran for their lives. Mugglewump disappeared back into the jungle, and the enormous crocodile was left all alone in the playground. He cursed the monkey, and waddled back into the bushes to hide. "I am getting hungrier and hungrier," he said. "I shall have to eat up at least 4 children before I am full up." The enormous crocodile crept around the edge of the town, taking great care not to be seen. He came to a place where they were getting ready to have a fair. There were slides and swings and dodgem cars, and people selling popcorn and cotton candy. There was also a big merry-go-round. The merry-go-round had marvelous wooden creatures for the children to ride on. There were white horses and lions and tigers and mermaids with fish tails and fearsome dragons with red tongues sticking out of their mouths. "Now for clever trick number 3, said the enormous crocodile, licking his lips. When no one was looking, he crept up onto the merry-go-round and put himself between a wooden lion and a fearsome dragon. He sat up a bit on his back legs, and he kept very still. He looked exactly like a wooden crocodile on the merry-go-round. Soon all sorts of children came flocking into the fair. Several of them ran right toward the merry-go-round. They were very excited. "I'm going to ride on a dragon." "I'm going on a lovely white horse," cried another. I'm going on a lion, cried a third one, and one little girl, whose name was Jill, said, I'm going to ride on that funny old wooden crocodile. The enormous crocodile kept very still, but he could see the little girl coming towards him. Yummy, yum, yum, he thought. I'll gulp her up easily in one gallop. Suddenly there was a swish and a swoosh, and something came swishing and swooshing out of the sky. It was the roly-poly bird. He flew round and round the merry-go-round, singing, Look out, Jill! Look out! Look out! Don't ride on that crocodile! Jill stopped and looked up. That's not a wooden crocodile, sang the roly-poly bird. It's a real one. It's the enormous crocodile from the river, and he wants to eat you up. Jill turned and ran. So did all the other children. Even the man who was working the merry-go-round jumped off it and ran away as fast as he could. The enormous crocodile cursed the roly-poly bird and waddled back into the bushes to hide. I am so hungry now, he said to himself. I could eat 6 children before I am full up. Just outside the town, there was a pretty little field with trees and bushes all around it. This was called the picnic place. There were several wooden tables and long benches, and people were allowed to go there and have a picnic at any time. The enormous crocodile crept over to the picnic place. There was no one in sight. Now for clever trick number 4, he whispered to himself. He picked up a lovely bunch of flowers and arranged it on one of the tables. From the same table he took away one of the benches and hid it in the bushes. Then he put himself in place where the bench had been. By tucking his head under his chest and by twisting his tail out of sight, he made himself look very much like a long wooden bench with 4 legs. Soon 2 boys and 2 girls came along carrying baskets of food. They were all from one family, and their mother had said they could go out and have a picnic together. Which table shall we sit at? Said one. Let's take the table with the lovely flowers on it, said another. The enormous crocodile kept as quiet as a mouse. I shall eat them all, he said to himself. They will come and sit on my back, and I will swizzle my head around quickly, and after that it'll be swish, crunch, gollop. Suddenly, a big deep voice from the jungle shouted, Stand back, children! Stand back! Stand back! The children stopped and stared at the place where the voice was coming from. Then, with a crashing of branches, Chunky the elephant came rushing out of the jungle. That's not a bench you were going to sit on, he bellowed. It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you all up. Chunky trotted over to the spot where the enormous crocodile was standing, and quick as a flash he wrapped his trunk around the crocodile's tail and hoisted him up into the air. Hey, let me go, yelled the enormous crocodile, who was now dangling upside down. Let me go! Let me go! No, Chunky said, I will not let you go. We've all had quite enough of your clever tricks. Chunky began to swing the crocodile round and round in the air. At first he swung him slowly. Then he swung him faster, and faster, and faster, and faster still. Soon the enormous crocodile was just a blurry circle going round and round Chunky's head. Suddenly, Chunky let go of the crocodile's tail, and the crocodile went shooting up into the sky, high into the sky, like a huge green rocket. Up and up he went, higher and higher, faster and faster. He was going so fast and so high that soon the earth was just a tiny dot miles below. He whizzed on and on. He whizzed far into space. He whizzed past the moon. He whizzed past stars and planets until, at last, with the most tremendous bang, the enormous crocodile crashed headfirst into the hot, hot sun, and he was sizzled up like a sausage. The end. Good night, my love. Sweet dreams.